Hate to break it to you, but if you're one of those buyers who's been waiting for interest rates to come back down to 3%, you may be waiting longer than you've been waiting for the next season of Stranger Things, which I think is actually coming back soon. Uh, but here's the good news. Just because interest rates are coming down, it doesn't mean that you're stuck. In fact, some of the buyers that I'm working with right now are getting really creative and really finding the ability to win in real estate. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hey there, I'm Iker Cerna, a licensed real estate agent in the state of Idaho, and I've been helping families just like you both succeed in real estate for the past 7 years. If you're wanting to talk about real estate, talk about Idaho in general, or just want to say, hey, how you doing? My info is right here. I would love to connect with you. So like I had mentioned in the intro of this video, I am a real estate agent. So kind of my job during the process of buying a home is a little bit different than a lender. So I'm going to first talk about some strategies as an agent and as a shopper to get creative and how to get those lower costs and get those cost breakdown. And the first thing I want to talk about is how to use inventory to your advantage. So realtor.com just put out an article how the first time in several years we have an excess of sellers, which means we have more people selling their home than there are people buying homes. And how to use that to your advantage is, let me kind of break down a story time here. Let's say you're a shopper and you really want this specific neighborhood A. 3 or 4 years ago, there was only one home available in that neighborhood. So that means you would have to fight with everyone else who was looking in that neighborhood to get that home. But today, in that same neighborhood, there's 3 to 4 different homes that are listed to sell. So you're probably asking, what does that mean for me? Well, that means you can go to all 3 of those homes or 4 of those homes and kind of decide, oh, this one's perfect for me. So that's already a great advantage to kind of win. But also you can kind of look at those different homes. Let's say this is a new construction neighborhood, for example. And 4 of them have been lived in, but 3 of them are just new builds, and those don't come with any landscaping. You can kind of negotiate those things in there, like fencing, landscaping, and those type of things. But then also you can negotiate a little bit of price, but we're going to talk about different things here in a minute that kind of might help you with the monthly payment a little bit more. But more inventory obviously means better for buyers. So that's one way that you could win. So another thing that to piggyback off that, even though I hate saying that, is the fact that you have a little bit more breathing time to make those decisions and to make sure you're really set to go and that it's really something you're comfortable with. Like I said 3 years ago, if there was only one house in that specific neighborhood, you usually had to make an offer that day or somebody else was going to take it. So you can kind of have a second to kind of really work with your lender to figure out ways to get into that house and how to negotiate the best deal for you. It was a wreck trying to compete with multi-offers. Some houses that are really priced well right now are still getting those multi-offers, but if you're buying that house because you love it and there's an emotional decision attached to it, you're probably going to end up paying a little bit more than you wanted to. So one of the easiest wins I'm seeing for buyers right now is to make offers that include seller paid closing costs. If you see a house that's been on the market for 60 days, 70 days, and that person needs to sell, more than likely, if your agent is clever, they should be asking for them to pay for your closing costs or get some sort of seller incentives to get you into that home. And the reason that might be more strategic for you than just kind of doing a price reduction, because it's kind of a win-win for everybody. And I know people think that purchasing a home is kind of, you should kind of be a seller buyer, but it's really a transaction that works together. I want everyone to do well. I want everyone to win in a transaction. They have to sell their home, and the buyer has to get into that home and have to have a payment that they can live with every month. So if you get them to cover your closing costs, rather than doing a $10,000 price reduction, which may save you $40 to $50 a month, if you get them to cover your closing costs and buy down a little bit of the rate, you're looking at maybe like $150 to a $200 savings based on the scenario. So that's definitely a way for buyers to win right now, is to get the seller to cover your closing costs. So before I recorded this video, I reached out to a couple of my preferred lenders just to kind of see what their thoughts were and what they're suggesting that people do. And while I'm not a huge fan of this next one, I do see how it could be a powerful tool, and that's an adjustable rate mortgage. You'll see them advertised as like a 2-1 buy down or a 3-run buy down. But basically that is you will buy down, and you can get the seller to pay for this with those closing costs as well, as you'll buy down the rate for the first 2 years. And for the first year, your rate will be like 4.87, and the next year it'll be 5.87, and the next year it'll go up to whatever the current interest rate is. And one of the reasons people like these is it kind of gets you into the home now with the idea that rates will come down to a more reasonable point in the future. People have been pushing these for the last couple of years, and well, guess what? The rates haven't come down enough for them to be really great. But if they did, and you did need to get into a house now, or let's say you only plan to live there for 2 years and then you're going to sell it or refinance, it could be an option. Not my favorite option. I tell buyers currently, if you can't do the payment as is, like at the higher end, then I wouldn't even try that, because eventually that rate's going to come around, and 2 years does pass a lot quicker than you think it would. This next one is it's called an assumable mortgage, which means you're buy the house with the mortgage that's already issued to it, which means you would be buying the mortgage from the current owner. They are great, they are powerful, and it could get you that 3% mortgage, but typically people who have those aren't really selling. If you have a 3% mortgage, I wouldn't advise you to sell right now anyway, because you should probably hold on to that and figure out something else. But you really needed it, which there are scenarios where people have to move because of jobs. I'm seeing a lot of people who are having to go back in office because of them being recalled to the in office, so they're not as able to be as flexible from work from home. So there are opportunity with assumable mortgages, and they are out there. So if that's something you qualify for, you do have to qualify different than you would a typical loan. And if you want more information on that, or you're interested in that, just give me a call and I can connect you with somebody. But yeah, assumable mortgages are awesome. My next way to figure out how to get people to win is to find some sort of down payment assistance programs. I just last week closed on a loan where the buyer was able to get a $15,000 grant to help with the down payment. And she actually got a check back when we closed. It wasn't a huge check. It was like maybe $150. But with the combination of seller credits and this grant, she was able to walk away with money and not have a payment for 45 days, so she could get all those things like furniture and moving costs and stuff like that covered. So I would talk with your lender. Maybe there are grants available. Maybe there are down payment assistance programs available. But there's a lot of programs that are helping people get into homes right now. And kind of the last thing I'm going to say is when you are purchasing a home, you really want to make sure that the team you're working with really has your best interest and is really kind of, they think on their feet. And that's not just agent, but that's lender as well. And even the closing company. Those type of things really make a difference. I know you can just think, oh, I'll just apply with anybody. And there's lots of lenders out there, but some lenders that aren't experienced really don't know how to think 3 or 4 steps ahead with a different type of client. If you're a specific client that is low credit score, and your income is a little bit lower, and your lender just says, oh, you're not approved, or you're not even worth applying for, then you may want to go to other lenders who could get you approved and look at the scenario like, okay, if we paid off your car, which you can pay off your car when you get certain type of loans, and we paid off some of this debt in 30 days, 60 days, we could have you eligible for purchasing a house. So one thing that I really want to tell people and get people really on board with is that your team, that who you work with, really does matter. Experience matters, like who they and what they've done in the past, and their success rate is really kind of something important, and that can save you a lot of money, because I'm sure you could go down to Rocket Mortgage and Wells Fargo and some of these bigger banks and not really get that service, and they're not really looking at who you are and what you can kind of live with, and they'll get you approved, but at the end of the day, do they really care whether or not you're able to put food on the table? That's something that the team would probably think about. So that will probably help you when you're purchasing your first home or any home. So while waiting might feel safe, you probably are going to have to spend some money to have a place to live right now anyway. You're probably paying $1,200 to $1,500 to even $2,000 for somebody's mortgage. You might as well be investing some part of that into the equity in the future. But if it's not right, if it's not the right time for you, that's fine too. But if you're thinking about it, or you want to talk about it, give me a call.